Hello and welcome. My name is Isiaku Isa Binta, and today is another good day to listen to your favorite true crime channel, right? All you have to do is sit back, relax, get your comfort blanket, get your holy books, maybe the Bible or the Quran, get some of your friends, and just sit back, relax, and listen. If you're very squeamish, I guess you might need the comfort blankets. Yeah. So before we go further, I would like to give a disclaimer, please. This video is not for children, right? And then viewers' discretion is always advised. It just means that you should be discreet whilst watching the video in public or something. Yeah. And then I used only public records to compile this video, which means that if you're so inclined, you could check it out. Get more clarity or what have you, right? This is the very ghoulish, very ludicrous story of Gracious David West, the Port Harcourt asphyxiator. Yeah, let's get into the video. Who is David West? David West was a 40-year-old man who stayed in Owerri, Lagos, and then Port Harcourt, right? It is said that he didn't move to Port Harcourt, like he was just visiting, maybe just to go enjoy himself. I mean, Port Harcourt is a beautiful city, right? Surrounded by, almost everything you want, right? So he was in Port Harcourt. He was hitting the bars, hitting the clubs, having a good time, mingling, gallivanting. And then he would focus on certain kind of girls. Those girls that would hang around the hotels and the bars and what have you, just to get men to take them home, for a price. Yeah, those are the kind of girls that David West was targeting. I mean, the reason is this. I mean, who else is coming to follow you anywhere else? Who else if not them? And also because I'm sure David believes that um, sex workers don't get as much when they get missing. They don't get as much coverage as those that are not. And then also those kind of girls, their parents don't even know where they are, so they would hardly seldom report them missing. So yeah, so he would target those kind of girls. He would take them to a hotel, drink, eat, maybe have carnal knowledge of each other, and then go to sleep. But David would never go to sleep because David had a plan. According to him, he would later tell the police this. He bought a knife, a very sharp knife from Aboki, and then he would come into the hotel with his companion would not know, of course, right? He put it under the pillow and then just make the TV volume so loud, unbearably loud, right? And then hoping that maybe it would drown out the screams and what have you of his victim. And it worked for a long time. It worked for a long time because in 7 days he had unalived 3 people. He has exterminated 3 people. So it's the same thing. He would meet you. He would sweet talk you, tell you, I'm gonna give you take you to a nice hotel. You're going to eat whatever you want or drink whatever you want, and then I'm going the next day keep my company, and the next day I'm going to give you a lot of money. And then these girls keep following him. I mean, I don't get it. In this day and age, I don't believe that they are. Why would a girl just follow somebody you don't know? The first day you meet them, follow them to the house. Who gave you that effrontery? Who gave you that guts? Who gave you that the fake? You know, what is the problem? Girls, we need to do better. We need to do better. I'm not victim shaming, but I'm just stating the facts. Anyways, um, he was doing his thing, right? He was still doing it, and the police started noticing. After the third body, they realized that they had a serial killer on their midst. Yeah. And then they went to the news and they were telling people, you should be careful. Girls especially should be careful. Don't go home with anybody you do not know and what have you. And they were telling these hotels, right? You should make sure that all of your guests are documented properly, right? You should also make sure that you have security cameras everywhere, because if you let any other girl get unalive in your hotel, you are going to be arrested. Ah, the people of Port Harcourt, especially the women of Port Harcourt, were discombobulated. They took the streets to protest, because according to them, a lot of people are dying. As at that point, 5 people had already been unalived, right? And then to the women, they don't see any significant, improvement in the case. So I guess they just assumed that maybe the police were not taking this serious because the girls, like I said, were in that line of business, right? So the police were on high alert. They needed to catch this man and they needed to catch him now. Because if there's one thing we know about serial killers is that they do not give up, they do not stop. They don't wake up one day and be like, yeah, I'm a shitty human being, maybe I should stop. No. Somebody has to stop them. Unfortunately, somebody has to stop them. Now, this time around, the police were on high alert. They needed to stop this guy right now. Well, at this point in the story, he had already unalived 9 people. Well, 8 people, right? He met this ninth girl, the same MO. He picks her up, with the promise of a good night's sleep and, a meal and whatever, right? So they got to the hotel. She ate, drank, I guess, and then they probably had kind of knowledge of each other, And then he pretended to be asleep as usual, right? But the girl couldn't fall asleep, and the reason is the TV was too loud, right? So she was trying to like look for the remote to like reduce the TV so she could, sleep. And then she said her hand touched something metal, right? Something hard and metal. She kept trying to touch it, to get a feel of whatever it is, right? And then she realized that this is a knife. Well, the girl tried not to overreact. I mean, she was quite smart because if she had overreacted, he would probably had, asphyxiated her, there and then, because we know that he had done it before. Well, what did she do? She tiptoed carefully into the bathroom, I guess with the pretense of maybe she wants to use the bathroom. She locked the door and she opened the bathroom window and started screaming bloody murder. Because now, in her mind, she's thinking, this could be the serial killer they keep talking about. I mean, she's supposed to have, thought about that before following to the hotel, but like, I mean, better late than never, I guess. So she was screaming. She was screaming a very ghoulish, vile scream, And then, lucky for her, right, a hotel staff, I guess a receptionist, heard her. And everybody was on high alert because everybody knew what was happening. Everybody knew. Everybody in Port Harcourt knew what was happening. Well, he came around, checking, going to different step by step by step, different axes of the hotel to like figure out where the screams was coming from until he found the door. Right? The girl was still screaming at this point. Kudos to her. So he took his MasterCard, got into the hotel, and what would he see? He saw David West, standing in front of a bathroom with a girl screaming in the bathroom. And I guess the hotel was a bit petrified, the hotel staff. He couldn't move, like he couldn't talk for a few seconds because his brain was still trying to like understand what was really happening, right? Before he could get his bearings, David West just sprinted out of the hotel. He ran. I guess that is when the hotel staff realized that, yeah, this is the man. This is the serial killer that everybody has been, talking about. Well, luckily the hotel followed the rules, right? They had security cameras, they had documented him, and he, unfortunately, the fool, should I say fortunately, he gave his real name, he gave his real name, for the documentation of the hotel. So the police now know who they are looking for. They are looking for 40-year-old Gracious David West, right? And then now they're looking at the video. They have a face. Now they have a face to, who this evil. They have a face to this misdemeanant, So what did they do? They go to the news again. They are like, yeah, everybody see this man. If you have any report, if you know him, if you have anything to say, if he looks familiar to you or anything at all, cooperate with the police, come and tell us, we'll take it from there, but be careful, women as girls as usual, don't get into a car with, so yeah. So David saw the I guess the newspaper or the news and decided, this is the right time for me to get out of Dodge. So he started, looking for a way to leave Port Harcourt. Well, at that point, the police were already on high alert. They made sure that they covered all of the exits of the state. they make sure that they covered all of the exits, because I mean, he would surely want to run away, and they know. Now, unfortunately for him, unfortunately for us, you know, he was still wearing the same clothes he was wearing in the CCTV, and he was in a bus leaving Port Harcourt. Now the police stopped him. The patrol police, stopped the car, and then they were, looking at each of the faces of the men in the, to make sure that David West was not there. And then here he was. Yeah, here he was wearing the same clothes from the surveillance camera. Yeah, so he was arrested, of course. Now, when the police arrested him, that was when they knew the full scope of his evil. That was when they knew the real number of people that he, annihilated. Yeah, 15 people were exterminated by his hand. Yeah, and then it is not just in Port Harcourt. He did some in Owerri, he did some in Lagos. Oh my goodness. People were, a serial killer in Nigeria. What do you mean? When I started true crime, when I started having interest in true crime, I'll watch all these videos and I'll be like, thank God that there are no men like that in where I'm from. I mean, I feel some kind of, I feel safe in my little, house, in my little country, thinking that all of these serial killer things is just for white people, But he shattered the mirage. As soon as I heard that there was a serial killer in Port Harcourt, I was like, what do you mean? So a Nigerian could actually do that. I mean, granted that he's doing his as some kind of robbery, but I'm sure he's enjoying it, because why would you unalive them? Why would you unalive them if you didn't want to? Well, the police, what did they do? They paraded David around Port Harcourt. They paraded him. The public were allowed to interview him and ask him questions, because this was a big deal. People were demanding his blood. I would definitely put the interview somewhere in this video for you to see. But he was crying, crocodile tears, trying to narrate what happened to whatever. But the bone of contention is that he unalived 15 people. He had to pay for it. Now, the government, the judiciary, decided that for his crimes against humanity, for his crime, he deserved to be unalived too. I mean, an eye for an eye, right? Well, he's still in death row. He's still in death row. It's been a while that Nigeria had, done any executions, right? So we don't really know if, that's going to happen anytime soon, or he will just live out the rest of his life in death row. I do not know. But what I care about is that he is of the streets. This demon is of the streets. Story of David West. It is quite unfortunate, and it's even more unfortunate that till this day, some girls are still getting unalived. Every once in a while you hear that, this girl has been this and dumped on the road, and whatever. I don't know. Girls, we need to do better. Please, we need to do better. This has to stop. Yeah, this has to stop. And then Nigerians, the victim blaming is just too much. Because some delinquents, some misdemeanors were busy saying, yeah, they deserve it because they were sex workers. Because they were sex workers, and I'm saying they are doing something bad, right? But they do not deserve to be unalived. They do not deserve to be unalived. Have some sympathy, have some empathy, for the family. The family of the victims didn't come for the trial, and I'm sure it's because of the way Nigerians made it all about their profession. It is said that only one of the, family of the deceased came for the trial for just one day and never returned. This is so unfortunate. Please, we all need to do better. We all need to do better. Since you got this far, do me well to subscribe, follow, tell your friends, tell your family, help a girl grow, and I would really appreciate it. So I'll see you on the next one. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, how do you get this girl in the hotel, and how do you kill them? Because we have seen similar things. Tell us, how do you do the killing?
I buy a knife from this house, kitchen knife.
Kitchen knife.
Yes, sir. After making love, we sleep for some